Welcome to the lesson on the concept of coercion in Islamic law. As usual, the learning materials for this topic can be found in the description below the video, in order of appearance. Islamic law, much like Western and particularly common law traditions, is grounded in the assumption that individuals possess free will and are therefore capable of choosing their course of action. Fadl notes that this freedom, however, carries with it the weight of legal and moral responsibility. A person's actions, whether to act or refrain, are presumed to be voluntary, and liability flows naturally from that autonomy. In Fadl's view, the concept of coercion challenges this presumption, introducing an important exception to the principle of voluntary action and the associated culpability. Coercion refers to situations where an individual is compelled by external pressure, usually by threat or force, to commit an act that would otherwise be unlawful. Such pressure negates the existence of a free and deliberate will, thereby undermining the presence of mens rea, the guilty mind required for criminal liability. The law of coercion, therefore, serves as a means to distinguish between those who act freely and those who act under duress. While sometimes used interchangeably, coercion and duress are not synonymous. Duress generally applies to lesser forms of compulsion, whereas coercion in its strict sense often refers to circumstances involving the commission of serious or violent crimes. This distinction underscores a wider policy dilemma common to all legal systems: the need to reconcile compassion for the coerced with the broader societal demand for accountability. The law of coercion, then, is as much an exercise in moral and policy judgment as it is in technical legal reasoning. Islamic jurisprudence mirrors this balancing act, seeking to protect individuals deprived of genuine volition while maintaining public order and moral standards. Let us now see how coercion is presented in Islamic legal sources. The doctrine of coercion, often referred to as al-Iqra in Islamic jurisprudence, is well established in both Quranic and positive law sources. The Mejelle, the Ottoman civil code, defines al-Iqra as compelling a person, without right, to do something against his consent by fear. The classical scholar Ibn Hajar al-Asqallani echoes this, describing duress as forcing someone to do something which he does not wish to do. Similarly, Article 112 of the Iraqi Civil Code characterizes coercion, or duress, as an act forcing someone, without right, to do something which he does not consent to. Although these definitions outline the phenomenon of coercion, they do not in themselves stipulate the legal effect of acting under compulsion. Rather, they provide a descriptive foundation from which legal scholars and jurists have drawn conclusions regarding culpability and mitigation. In Islamic thought, the existence of coercion does not automatically excuse every act. Instead, it requires a nuanced evaluation of both the objective circumstances and the subjective experience of the coerced person. We will now turn to the dual structure of Islamic law, considering both the Quranic and positive approaches. Both Islamic positive law, the juristic interpretations and applications, and Islamic Quranic law, the divinely revealed sources, share key structural and methodological features. Each presents a systematic and coherent framework for understanding coercion, grounded in rational principles and moral reasoning. Both branches agree that in criminal cases, where consequences are grave, the standards of expected conduct become stricter, and defenses based on coercion are scrutinized more closely. Islamic law typically begins with broad moral principles, such as the nature of the rights affected and the sanctity of human intention, and only thereafter considers the individual's subjective experience. As noted by Fadl, the key parameters governing coercion include proportionality, limitation of damage, and the principle of choosing the lesser evil, akaf al-dararain. However, not all these considerations are set out with the same degree of clarity in the Quranic texts. In particular, the doctrine of proportionality is less explicitly developed. This may stem from the linguistic and interpretive obscurity of some early sources, which allowed later scholars considerable latitude in interpretation. It is also plausible that this obscurity is intentional, providing a measure of flexibility within Quranic law, an otherwise immutable and eternal body of norms. This leads us to the broader dimensions of coercion. Islamic law recognizes that coercion is a multifaceted phenomenon, encompassing not only physical threats but also social, economic, and psychological pressures. It must be acknowledged that many acts of compulsion may arise from structural vulnerabilities, such as poverty, dependence, or social marginalization. In such cases, an individual's wrongful act may be driven not by immediate physical threats but by the pressures of circumstance. This dimension of coercion raises profound policy and moral questions that extend beyond legal analysis into the realms of economics and social justice. It reveals that coercion is not merely a legal category but also a mechanism of exploitation, whereby the strong exert control over the weak. Recognizing this, Islamic law adopts a compassionate stance toward those who act under genuine duress, permitting certain exceptions or mitigations in appropriate cases. Nevertheless, the law cannot be expected to eliminate all forms of inequality or oppression. Overregulation risks eroding the delicate balance between moral guidance and individual accountability. Thus, Islamic jurisprudence distinguishes between degrees of wrongdoing. While coercion may exonerate in minor offenses, it cannot easily excuse grave crimes that endanger life or moral order. Thank you for your interest in this topic. If you would like to learn more about Islamic law, take a look at our dedicated videos. We hope that this lesson was helpful to you and we are looking forward to seeing you again soon.